So Russia is going to have a whole discussion now. Again, we're going to go back a little bit just to get the completeness of it. But the whole discussion, again, remember, it says 6,000 years. The world is 6,000 years, and in the seventh millennium is going to be Choruv. So what Choruv means, we're going to get to. Hopefully, we'll get to it today. But what does it mean, Choruv? Does it mean destruction? It doesn't mean destruction, but we'll see what it does mean. Right? But that's only going to be coming out of the discussion. Right? So Moshe has a whole whole discussion now about the number 7, the significance of the number 7, and it's going to be a whole discussion about Shabbos. Because at the end of the day, as we said, the seventh millennium corresponds to the Shabbos of the Sheshes Me'Bereshis, as the Ramban told us, that every 1,000 years of the world corresponds to one day of creation, or to say it the other way, every day of creation was the seed of a certain millennium. The first day of creation was connected the first 1,000 years, second day, the second 1,000 years, etc., etc. So Shabbos is connected the 7th of the 1,000 years. And so we have to understand the significance of the number 7 and why the number 7 has within it the inherent spirituality of the whole Bria. Okay? In other words, we know that the Chazal tell us that Kol HaShviyuyot, all sevenths are Chavivim. Right? It's a dear number, it's a beloved number to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the number 7. Right? Over and over again we see, right, the whole right, so many different parts of the Torah revolve around the number 7, whether it be Shabbos, whether it be Shemitah, whether it be the 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos. Right? Everything revolves around 7 Shemitahs, make up a Yovel. So we have to understand the significance of the number 7, and then this will lead us to a deeper understanding of what Shabbos.
And someone's not muted, David.
David, you got to mute yourself.
What?
You have to mute yourself. Okay. This later. Okay. So that's what we're going to be discussing the 7 days of the creation. Okay, and Shabbos, and then we'll have a deeper understanding of Shabbos, have a deeper understanding of this whole process of what we're talking about of the 6,000 years of the world. Okay. So we're going to start again, right, on the bottom of Kuf Mem Vav, because we want to get a complete picture here. Right, the bottom of Ubesefer Yetzira, Achar Shemevayir et Inyan Vav Ksavot Shemetziut. The Sefer Yetzira discusses the 6 sides. Right, the physical world has 6 sides: top, bottom, right, left, right, front, back. Right? There's six sides to the 3-dimensional world. Okay. So it says Chasuv Shamod Sheyesh Bechina Nosefet Shvi'it. There's a 7th. Shenikret Heichal HaKodesh Shehu Be'emsa. There is another aspect of the number 6, which is the number 7, which is the center, right, which is called the Heichal HaKodesh. Right? Umevarim Sham Rishonim She'ashesh Ksavot Hem Tzurat Hitgalut Shel HaMetziut B'chol Tzad. Those 6 sides are the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed and created all of existence. Aval etzem hametziut, the etzem hametziut. What is the real reality? What gives everything else reality? Okay. In other words, the physical forms that we see, the Gashmi world that we see, right, which has 3 dimensions, which has 6 sides. That's not the etzem hametziut. The etzem hametziut is, right, a point in the middle which gives life to everything else, from which everything else emanates, like the rays from the sun. So, it's there, but you can't see it. Right? It's like a point which can't be seen, it has no dimensions, but that is the spiritual energy which gives existence to all of the physical world that we know. This is what it means that the Heichal HaKodesh is in between, not in between, in the middle point. That is what you see on the sides. Right? But on the sides, you see a revealed form of it, but you don't see the essence of it. You don't see the real reality of it. Okay, and so that's the way. I mean, Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world. There is the spiritual, which gives existence to the physical. The physical doesn't exist, has no existence on its own, other than being an expression of a spiritual reality. So that spiritual reality is what we call the emtza of the sixth, which is the point of the seventh. And that's the kedusha of the seventh, which is the kedusha of Shabbos and all of the other sevens that we know in the Torah. Shabbos. This is the underlying secret, the underlying understanding of Shabbos. What does the Torah say? The first introduction that we have to Shabbos, right, in the Parshas Hamon, back in Parshas B'Shalach, is Shabbos is don't leave your place. Why? Ki Shabbos hi habechina shebizman shenisheret kshura elav yitbarach. It's the point in time. We have time, we have place, right? We have different aspects of the world, of creation. But in terms of time, the Zman, the Zman remains absolutely connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, what happens Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are removed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're distanced, right? They don't have they're obviously they're given life by that by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they're all different manifestations. There's all different things, and that's why the world is called Olam. It's called hidden, right? Because the world hides HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because there's all different kinds of things happening which are not, you don't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly, but the Shabbos is the point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence, and that's the only thing that exists there. Nothing else exists in that point of Shabbos. And this is that middle point that we were talking about. You can't see it within the boundaries and the borders of reality. Ella nish'eret beruchniuta ubetarata kshura b'mikora. Shabbos remains in its ruchnius, in its spirituality, in its purity, and it's attached to its source. Okay, so you have that point which is attached to the source, and everything else emanates from that. Shabbos hi me'ein olam haba. Shabbos is what we call me'ein olam haba, some kind of taste of olam haba, some kind of a representation of olam haba in the midst of this world. Shehi me'ein bechinas hazman shel olam haba, right? Because it has some kind of element of the bechinas hazman of olam haba, right? Meaning that in Shabbos there is something about the time. Ha'elef hashvi. Okay, so Olam Haba, so we're defining now as the seventh millennium. Okay, in other words, if we've been talking about the sixth millennium, right? So we know that 2,002 of those, of the last two, right? We have two is Tohu, two is Torah, and two is Mashiach. The last two, right, including the one that we're in now, are called Mashiach. Okay, so that means that we are expecting Mashiach any day. And that means that the Yemos HaMashiach will be from now, or whenever Mashiach will be Zochah to have the Mashiach with us, right? Until the end of the 6,000, right? That's going to be. So we have another, how many? 2007, another 220 years or something, right? That's going to be Yemos HaMashiach. After that, the seventh millennium is going to be Olam Haba. Right? That's the Chad Choruv. That's what we'll talk about what it means to be Choruv, but that's going to be the Olam Haba, which is the Elef Hashvi. So therefore, L'chein b'meshech kol yemei achol, all the days of the week, shehem bechinat hitpashtut hazman, is the expansion of time, meaning expansion of that nukuda of time to the time that we experience and we do things in. Anachnu ovnim upoalim giluim shonim b'olam. We can do things in the world. Right? We can be active. We can affect things in the world because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the space to do. He created a world for us, and he also created this concept of time that we can operate within the time on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc. We can operate within the time in order to bring about more revelations of things into the world. We can bring things into the world because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did during those 6 days. He brought things into the world, right? And he so that he expanded the world, right? The world started from a point of zero, and it expanded until we have all of creation. We have all of the stars and the animals and all of the things that are described in the Sheshes Mebreshis. These are all revelations, expansions of things that happened within time, in time, and Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us, right, these days for us to be poel during time, just as he was poel, just as he was active and created things in the course of time in order to fill the physical dimensions of the world, the three-dimensional world. So we can operate in the dimension of time in order to operate within the three-dimensional world, which has 6 sides. Avol b'Shabbos shavat vayinafash. But Shabbos, there was rest, cessation of work, cessation of anything, of any new revelations. The world, literally, the process of creation came to an end, and, so to speak, time came to an end. We reached the end of time. Time is there because it's within time we can do things, but time came to an end. Time came back to its original point, which is the center point, and then at that point, nothing happens. At that point, there's complete shvita, complete rest, complete nothing happening, right? That's what happens on Shabbos, right? And that's what we have to do. Our job is, our mission is to make, this is the bris that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with us, to keep the Shabbos, is to live that kind of life, to live a life of the seventh, to live a life which is not active within the physical world, right? Which means which means not doing the 39 malachos, which are the paradigms of what it means to be active and creative in this world. And we're supposed to come back to that point where nothing happens. Nothing, right? We're back to that center point, which is from which all the other points come. And so Shabbos is literally the end of the time. Okay. After Shabbos, we start over again. Okay. Yeah, so that's right. And so, right, Motzei Shabbos, we make Havdalah. We start all over again, and we start a new 7 days, 6 days plus Shabbos, right? In which we are again active and again coming to the end where time doesn't really exist as a measurable or time. In other words, we're living in this concentrated point of pure existence, or let's call it pure being, without being involved in the world of doing. Okay, if we want to use the dichotomy between being and doing. On Shabbos, we are. Right? It's our to be, right? And the rest of the week, it's our to do. Okay? And so on Shabbos, all we are is we are. Ha'olam kashur lamamtzi. On Shabbos, the world has a connection with the mamtzi, with the one who gives it existence. Mamtzi, for the word mitziut, right? In modern Hebrew, mamtzi means an inventor, right? But here it means more the one who gives the mitziut, right? So the world is completely connected. There's no place to do anything, because at that point that's not a point of doing. That's just a point where all of the other dimensions emanate from, but that itself doesn't have its own point of time within which we can operate. Right. Okay. No, but I'm trying to be clear, but as far as I understand it. Okay. Anybody has any questions, they can feel free to ask. Okay. Yeah, Jory.
Well, what I'm confused about is the way there's time and space are mixing here. It seems like in my mind that there's like we have this beautiful model. I can easily picture it. You got a six-dimensional cube, or I think of it as like lines, three intersecting lines, and there's the point in there where everything emanates out from, right? And you got a left, right, and up, down, front, back.
Right.
Everything goes from that point. Everything's created from that point. Okay, that's a total spatial metaphor. Then we
Right.
have this metaphor of Shabbos,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and and Shabbos is equated to that center point,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
it's a time.
One second. עכשיו לא, עכשיו לא. Close the door. עכשיו לא. I'm so sure. Okay. 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 Close the door. Yeah.
Jory, I'm with you on that. Rav Kalinsky very recently in his lecture, he mentioned that scientists they have a problem with understanding what time is, and I was very fascinated with this idea. I went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave me a breakdown why scientists have a problem with understanding what time is. So it broke it down as an exercise. If you want to do that. To try that, it'll explain to you why scientists have an issue with what time is.
Okay, Beseder, but let me try to address the point, because what we have to understand. There you are, Jory. Yeah, you just moved on my screen. But what we have to understand is that time, as we'll see, also is a physical creation, meaning physical, not in the sense of that you can touch it, right? But it's a creation which has six sides and a middle. Right? In other words, just as space has six sides and a middle, so too does time. Right? In other words, so it's exactly the same, because time is also something which is related to the Gashmias. Okay. Right. Just as space is related to Gashmias, time is related to Gashmias, right? Because physical things exist in time, just like they exist in space. And in a world where there was no Gashmias, because Baruch Hu, before he created the world, just as there was no space, there was no time either. Right? So time is a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And time has reality to it. In other words, there's a reality of what is on the first day is a separate day from the second day, and the second day is a separate day from the third day. Each day is a separate day, and the thing that gives each of those days its existence is the center point of Shabbos. Right? Just like what gives the analogy would be that just like in space, what gives everything existence is the mokom of the Beis Hamikdash, right? The place of the Even Hashtiyah, where thing is in space, and there is a place from which everything else emanates, and in time there's a place from which everything emanates. So the two let's say models are really the same model, just because, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu created time, right? Time and play and space, and Adam as well, right? But that's okay. So that's really the point of what we're getting to. You put your finger on the point that Ramosh is trying to make. But we'll see. We're going to discuss it. It's going to be much more discussed in a little bit. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. But Seder, the question really puts us on. You have one more question then, Jory?
Well, no, I'm sorry about that. I was getting.
Judy Sal, what's happening?
My brother keeps trying to call me. I don't know what's.
Okay. This here. Okay, let's move on. Okay, you'll deal with your brother, and we'll go on right there. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Put yourself on mute just in case you.
And I lost the screen where the. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Weiter. Hashvi'i Yesod emunat hachidush. Okay. Hakfira shel kadmus. Okay, now we're going to get into the meaning of Shabbos, and we'll talk. And Moshe is going to talk about how Shabbos interacts with or helps us understand what's wrong, what's false about the heresy of Kadmus, Hakfira shel Kadmus. What does Kadmus mean? Kadmus means that, as we'll see, the world was always there. There was no creation in time. Okay. Shabbos yesod ha'amuna. He said, why is Shabbos such an important yesod? It's the foundation of emuna. Mipnei she'akfira gdola va'ikarit biyoter ba'olam, the most serious and fundamental heresy of kfir in the world, hidat ma'aminei kadmut ha'olam. That's the das, the opinion, the understanding of those who believe in kadmus ha'olam, that the world was always there. Ubezeh ma'aminim kol ba'ei olam shelo kiblu es haTorah. And Moshe says, we'll try to understand this, but he says, this is something that everybody believes. Everybody in the world who is not Mikabel Torah, right, doesn't receive Torah, believes that the world is Kadmon, believes that the world is something which has always existed. V'yesod de'azu na'utz b'mitziut hazman. Because why do people think that? Why? It's not that people are crazy, right? Adarabah. People think that because they see time as something which is a reality. It exists, right? Time moves, right? We move, right? We experience time. And so therefore, the most reasonable thing is that time is always going to move back and back and back into infinity. There's no beginning of the time because we experience, there is time, and probably there always was time, and probably there always will be time. So that's why people think that there was no beginning of time. V'hashabbos ba'al lehafkia midei hazu. And Shabbos is coming to tell us that that's not true. It's coming to uproot that. It's coming to extract us from this way of looking at it. Mitoch mitziut hazman gufa, through the examining what time is, meaning as we're going to, Amir Hashem, try to see today as much as we can, right? That if we think about what Shabbos is exactly how we can show or demonstrate to ourselves the fallaciousness of this belief in the Kadmus Olam. And that's exactly what the point of Shabbos is, to demonstrate that's a false concept. And we're going to show it from examining what time is. In other words, they're taking the exact same thing that all of the heretics are looking at, which is time, and take that and demonstrate that no. But if you really understand what time is all about, right, then you'll see, and we understand how Shabbos fits into that pattern. So we'll see how that must mean that there was a beginning to the world. Okay, so now let's see how he develops this. Hopefully we can get through it. What does it mean? Right? We translate that into other words. It's the denial of creation of yesh me'ayin. Right? Something out of nothing, ex nihilo. It's the understanding that the world has an existence, which is not dependent upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon. That's what people believe. That there was always something there. Okay? They understand that, yes, even those who believe, and we'll see, that there is a God who forms things, right? But there's not a God who creates things. As the different, so there could be a God who coexisted with the original existence, the original matter, right, that was always there, and God shaped it and formed it into the world that we know. So there could be a deity who is in control of the world, but that is not the same as the deity who created the world, right, out of nothing. Because now, once you believe in that, Once you believe that the world was always there, that there's a world which isn't dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon for its existence, but has an existence independent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will. This is what mafsher la'adam asot bo'olam kirtzon. That's what enables us to do in this world whatever we want to do. Right? Because if you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world out of nothing, so then that means that there is no existence other than what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wills. And Memela, it can't live outside of his Ratzon. Again, it's a point that we've seen in other form of Rav Moshe, meaning that if everything that exists is an expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, right? So then right, the only way that we can exist is if we live in accordance with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, right? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Bechira to choose to live according to his will or not, or to live not according to his will. And that's unique to human beings, right? Human beings have that unique among all of the creations of the world, right? Because anything above us in the world of the angels has no Bechira because they can't choose to live not according to his will. And anything below us, right, in the world of the animal world, can't choose not to live again, not according to his will. Right? Because everything that the animals do is according to his will. Right? That's exactly the way God created all of the animals to whatever you do, right? So when the lion eats the zebra, he's exactly doing what it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, that lions eat zebras. Right? That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, right? So the only being that has the free will is man. We can choose to live according to his will, and then we exist. Or we can choose, that's the Bechira that was given to Adam, right? To choose to live not according to his will, and then we cease to exist. Right? Now, it doesn't mean that we cease to exist the next minute, right? Because that would, of course, be a contradiction to our Bechira. Right? If every time you did something wrong, you died, right? And people died the minute they did something wrong. So, of course, we wouldn't have much Bechira. Right? So Bechira means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets us go. Right? He gives us space. He gives us enough rope to hang ourselves, or he gives us enough rope to try to do tshuva, right? So that we don't immediately have, right? So again, but we have to understand that every act of according to his will means that we exist. It's life. Every act not according to his will means that we are dead. Okay, that's what it means. So he says. And that's what it means. That's the inyan of if God created the world, so then that means that the world only exists no. But if God didn't create the world, in other words, if there was no creation out of nothing, that means that the world has an independent existence. So that means that even if I do something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me not to do, that won't affect my existence. In other words, if your boss tells you don't do something, right, and you do it anyway, right, so that doesn't affect your existence, right? It can affect your job, but it doesn't affect your existence, right? Right? Because you don't stop existing because you did something against your boss or against your parent or against anybody, right? But if you do something against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but if you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you existence, then by not living according to his will, you're ceasing to exist. Upamim rabot, and he says, Moshe says, afilu elu hamaminim b'kodesh baruch Hu, even those who do believe in God, ba'omek hadavar einam maminim shabara yesh mayim. In the depth of things, they don't really believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created yesh me'ayin. El rak shehu chazak. What do they believe? They're strong. And he can arrange. He can make things happen. Right? Right? In other words, the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can kill whatever the guy's name. What's his name in Iran? Hamdani. What was his name? Hamdani. Did I get it right?
That's the mayor of New York. You're close, very close.
What was it?
Khomeini.
No.
Khomeini.
Anyway, what?
Khomeini.
Khomeini, that wasn't he the
Hamdani
old?
is New York.
What?
Hamdani is New York.
Well, Hamdani's the mayor of New York. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Said birds of a feather, Anyway, so whoever it is, right? The fact that Kodesh Baruch Hu has the power to bomb him out of existence, that a lot of people believe, right? Even Trump believes that, right? You don't have to be particularly Jewish to believe that. But that Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world out of nothing. This is something which it's hard to wrap our heads around, because it's not. We don't have that experience. We have to believe something which is totally out of the realm of our experience. Right? Again, so what do people believe? I stopped in the middle of the sentence. It obligates us to have a certain relationship with him because he's powerful. Avalo, but it doesn't necessarily mean, the way people generally relate to it, that there's no existence outside of his will. That idea that there's no existence outside of his will is a very powerful idea, a very fundamental idea, and it's a very difficult idea for one to internalize and really live by. Right? In other words, that's what we call yirat chet. Right? Every time I'm about to do something which, if I would think about it, is not according to his will, if I would really think about it, that this means that I'm really detracting from my very life force. Right? I'm killing myself in some sense. Right? If we would think about that, right, so then life would be maybe a little bit on a higher level. But that's a very hard thing to do, and that's what we have to try to think about. Okay. What other people have, that's the difference between bria and yitzira. Shehi pu'ula yesh miyesh. Yitzira means forming something out of something. Avolo b'bria shel yesh me'ayin. Okay, so that's the big kfira in the world, is the fact that people do not really feel the yesh me'ayin, how that everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives existence to everything, right? Right? If you think about it, again, we say the Shem Hashem. The Shem Hashem, we say Baruch Atah, and we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud, right? That's how we pronounce it. And we know it's written Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? And if you think, one of the understandings is that these are two dimensions of what the two dimensions we're talking about. Aleph Daled Nun Yud means God is the master. He's the master of the world. Right? Master of the world means he controls everything. It doesn't yet go to the heart of the existence of things. He's the master. He controls. Right? Okay. Yud Kei Vav Kei comes from the word hoveh, for havaya, of existence. Right? It's that he gives existence to the world. Right? That's a deeper level of control. It's the source of all existence. It's and so that's why there's a machlokus in the poskim. Which kavanah should you have? Everybody agrees you should have the kavanah of Aleph Daled Nun Yud, because that's what we say, right? But there are those who say that you should have both kavanahs, right? And so many sidurim they have, and all the Sephardi sidurim they have the two names like sort of interspersed with each other, right? Right? If you look in a Sephardi siddur, but even in the Ashkenazi siddur, many of the new sidurim have they say that they emphasize these two meanings of the Shem Hashem.
Where we also have
Huh?
we also got a warning.
Okay.
Everyone has it.
But they didn't get it in Toronto and New York. Okay, Beseder. Right. Beseder. That's so b'schus that we'll continue. Okay. V'hatorah hakdosha, top of the Kuf Memchet. V'hatorah hakdosha kvar b'milah rishona ba la'afkia mizeh. This is what the Torah wants us to understand is not the truth. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. It says Bereshis bara Elokim. Lodia. This is to teach us. Shekadosh Baruch Hu bara et habriya yesh me'ayin. That's what bara means. V'uzeu yesod ha'emunah v'torah. This is the foundation of all faith, of all emunah, and all of Torah. V'mitzvah shemora al zeh lehedya yashabas. The mitzvah which demonstrates this, which shows our connection to this concept, is Shabbos. Shehi brit bein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, And it's interesting, Shirak Heim Sheyachim Be'emet Le'emunat HaChidush. Here's something which is an interesting point. That Ramesh is telling us that the real emunah of Chidush is something that a Jew has. And a Goy doesn't have this. Whereas a Goy can believe in Yetzirah, he can believe in that God controls the world. He believes there's nothing standing in the way of a Goy, of a non-Jew, right? Connecting to the fact that a Kodesh Baruch Hu runs the world and controls the world. And that's but this deeper point of that there is a spiritual connection with some spiritual force which gives us life at all times, which is the source of our existence, and we experience that. That is something that comes to us, as he says, we'll see, through Torah, through Matan Torah. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to instill within us something to create a connection to him, which is deeper than the connection that he has formed with all the other nations of the world. It's a connection of sensing our existence is connected to him. Not just what we do and not just what we're supposed to do, but our very existence is connected to him. And this is something that is shaykh just to Jews. Ubipashtus, and he says, because Pashtus, kosher lahavin ma tam shel adin ovek achavim sheshavat chayiv misa. As we all know, there's a problem that a goy who keeps Shabbos is chayiv misa. What's the problem? A goy can do lots of mitzvahs. Right? A goy can do there's lots of things that a goy can do if he chooses to do so. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Some things maybe not, but many things he could do, right? So if a guy wants to build a sukkah and dwell in the sukkah on sukkahs, that fine. You know, there's no problem with it. Judaism doesn't have a problem with that. Okay, so what is the problem with the goy shavat chayiv misa? Ella be'achreach she'asod shel Shabbat hu emunah ve'edut she'olam lo nimtza la'atzmo klal. But this is what Shabbos is. Shabbos is the belief, the faith, and the testimony. That's why Shabbos is an oath. It's a sign. It's how we are testifying that the world does not have an independent existence at all. Elahu kashur v'talui b'rtzono yitbarach. It's completely dependent upon the ratzon of Hashem. Hashem gives ratzon to ratzon keeps the world going, right, at all times. V'le'emunah hazot ein l'goy shaychut klal. And this emunah, this a goy doesn't have a shaykhus to it. I can translate it. V'halavai puts into parentheses shanu namin bazel legamrei. Halavai that we should reach a full 100% emunah in this, and the fact that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is the source of all existence. Ba'ofen shekol mi shelo kibel Torah kofer b'breishis u'mamin b'kadmus. It means without Torah, right? Without Torah, that means you are denying Bereshis. Because only through Kabbalah Satorah, only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicated to us, and he connected with us, and he elevated us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought us to a level of connection with him, which is unique, right? We say that every day in Aleinu, 3 times a day, right? Right? It doesn't mean we're not only talking about the bad goyim, right? Right? We're not only talking about the bad goyim, we're talking about the good goyim. Right? When we say Aleinu, we're giving praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for creating us as Jews, right? Right? Better than, right, meaning at a different level or a different plane of existence, a different plane of connection than even the best of the non-Jews. And so that's why. So if the guy is Shomer Shabbos, so he's involved in something which he can't touch, right? Which is beyond his grasp. Right? He's trying to grasp something which he can't hold on to, and so therefore, which is not shaykh to him, and so therefore we say, don't do it. Okay? Yeah, Jory.
When you say Torah, I mean, is there a special place here for Torah Shapell?
Why? I mean, what's the direction of your question? I don't understand.
Well, I'm not sure, but for one thing, Christians, for example, accept the written Torah in a way, and there's other.
Again, what we're talking about here is, you know, there's no. We say that there's a Torah shebichtav, a Torah shebal peh, right? But it's a package deal. I mean, it's not. It's the Torah shebichtav, but with its perush. Right? There is the Rambam says that that the Torah shebichtav was given at Sinai with its perush. And the Torah shebal peh is the perush of the Torah shebichtav. So any attempt to try to understand the Torah shebichtav on its own without the Torah shebal peh is a falsification of Matan Torah, because Moshe Rabbeinu received both chalakim together, and every pasuk of the Torah shebichtav, right, was accompanied by an explanation of the Torah shebal peh. Right? It happened simultaneously, right? So to talk about how other people, outsiders, relate to it, that's something which not relevant to us. Okay, all right. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so now we're getting to the point. So how does Shabbos demonstrate this? Ve'atam sheShabbat mora al emunat hachidush. So how does Shabbos fit in and help us really demonstrate mora? The best word I can think is to teach, to demonstrate the emunas hachidush. Mishum, wow, right? We just had a big boom outside. Okay, right? Mishum ha raya hagedola likfira shel kadmut miseder hazman. Where does how does the people, the heretics of Kadmus, where do they get their point? Miseder hazman, right? From the fact that, as we said before, time, we experience time. We look backwards in time, we look forwards in time, right? Things grow in time, things decay in time, right? Everything happens to us in the framework of time, so we can't imagine anything existing not in the framework of time. Rambam has many chapters in Moreh Nevuchim where he tries to demonstrate it, and at the end of the day, he says that there's no solid philosophical proof, right, that can prove one way or the other, right, from a purely philosophical point of view, right? He says that's why we have to have emunah and the Bereshis bara Elokim, but because there are certain points that can't be proven philosophically. But he argues with them, and he tries to show all the weaknesses of their point. Those kofrim, they say that the Zman is just one reality of continuity. And it's not shaykh that there should be a point of time which is the beginning. It's just a thing which has continuity. That's the essence. He says a chefzer, like a Lomdish language. He says it's the essence of it is hemshech. That's what it is. It's continuity. Right? And to imagine that a non-continuous, some kind of start or stop is something which they can't accept. Right? Okay, so Zman proves that it always was there, right? Just the way we experience time. Okay, but our point is, well, let's just right. Why do we call an akum oved kochavim v'mazalot? Because time, right, happens through the stars and the constellations. They move, right, and they determine the sun, the moon, right. They determine, right, the days, the years, right? the constellations, right, the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Right? They're all right. They're what bring about time. Koloshan HaKatuv, as the pasuk says in Devarim and Vaschanu, and Tisei Nech HaShamayma, lest you raise your eyes up to the heavens. You'll see the sun, the moon, and the stars, kol tzva shamayim, all the hosts of heaven. V'nidachta, and you'll be pushed aside. V'ishtachavita lahem, and you will bow down to them, and you'll serve them. You'll worship them. Dehem elu shegormim lichpor v'lahamid et hametziut kinifredet latzma. These are the things that cause people to look at the world as something separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They see everything. They see all the constellations. They see how everything is moving. The Galgal is moving. They see it's a perfectly contained system. Right? Everything is just perfectly arranged. So therefore, there's an existence without divine intervention, right? Because we can predict, where the moon's going to be, or where the sun's going to be, right? And or where they were, or where the stars are going to be, and with right for thousands of years. That's what the word Bereshis is coming to teach us isn't true. What does the Sforno say? B'tchilat hazman. What does Bereshis mean? The beginning of zman, of time. It's a point which can't be divided. You can't slice it in half. It's a point, right? With nothing absolutely zero before it. The avsha metziut niret kishlema, even though metziut, existence, looks kishlema, as whole and perfect unto itself. But the way it is that but the truth is, everything is yesh me'ayin. Et kol ha-metziut kafi ma hui kolel marechet hazman. All of metziut, as it is, kolel marechet hazman, including the marechet hazman, the system of time. All of this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created yesh me'ayin. Okay, so now, v'zer, we'll try to get to the point now. V'zer hu hagilui shel ha-Shabbat. This is what Shabbos teaches. שמתוך המציאות של הזמן גופה, מתגלה הקשר אל נקודת הבריאה יש מאין. So what did Shabbos do? Shabbos says, right, that Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world in 6 days, and there was a Shabbos. What does it mean there was a Shabbos? It means there was a day when nothing was created. It means there was a day which is a return to that moment of Bria Yesh Me'ayin, because that point of the seventh is the same point where things started from. The Kodesh Baruch Hu started it from a point, and the time ends in a point. In other words, the seventh day, Shabbos, is the end of time. Time ends at that point, and it becomes exactly what it was at the beginning before time came into existence. Right? And so in Shabbos there is no time. Right, so to speak, okay? Uchemo shebi'arnu le'el, she'hashvi'it hi ha'nekuda pnimit shel kol shesh yamim. It's the inner nekuda of all the 6 days. V'ikshura tamid b'shorish ha'metziut, and it's always connected to the source of all existence. Right, that point is always the point from which all other things emanate, and it is the point which is directly connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no intermediary between that HaKadosh Baruch Hu and that point of time. Everything else is a hitpashtut, right? It's an expansion, but that point is not an expansion. That point is a point. Heichal HaKodesh be'emtza, shesham mitgaleh ech kol hametziut kshura b'rtzono yitbarach. From that we see, it's revealed how all of existence is connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon. She'emtzia kol yesh me'ayin. Because if we're going to re-experience a point of pure kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that means that we have come to a point where we can experience that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yesh me'ayin. Ubemahadura hakolelet shel hametziut, and now if we look at the totality of all of existence, in other words, all of the millennia, ze mitkayem b'chad charuv. This happens, this is fulfilled with the 1,000 years of Korban, right, which we'll discuss. We're not going to get to today, but we'll discuss it next time. What this Korban is, not a negative concept at all, but it's a kind of Olam Haba concept. Right? But just like Shabbos is kind of a destruction of everything that is created, but just meaning everything comes back to the point, so that's what the Charuv means. Everything comes back to its essential point of existence. Sheseder azman atzmo. And so this is the seder of how the Zman is. B'chayev שיהיה שיט אלפי שנים ואחד חרוב. Just like the Seder Hazman is to go through the 6 days of creation till the till the seventh day. So too the 6,000 years go from their 6,000 years to that center point, which is going to be the point of the Sarah exhibition. V'yit kayem, and at that point it will be fulfilled. V'niskav Hashem levado. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be exalted by Himself. That's what we said. The seventh millennia is V'niskav Hashem levado. V'ge'agili hazeh mitgaleh al yedei shvitat HaShabbat. This Gilui, that there is a point of existence from which everything emanates, which is the point of, and which brings us back to the Bria of Yesh Me'ayin. This is something which is revealed every time we keep Shabbos. And that's exactly what's going to be revealed in the seventh millennia. She'az mitgaleh mitoch hazman gufa, because then it'll be mitgaleh mitoch hazman gufa, she'ametziut hi lo b'li gvul, that the metziut is not without boundaries. Ela yesh lo sof, right? It has a time. It has an end. V'chol davar, right? It has an end. In other words, time is something which doesn't go on into infinity. Time is something which comes to an end on Shabbos, because Shabbos is the time where everything comes back to, right, where all the 6 sides of the cube, right, come back to the center point. V'chol davar sheyesh lo sof, muchach sheyesh lo gam hatchala. And here's the point. If anything that has an end also has to have a beginning. There's nothing which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created without boundaries, with infinity. Right? There's nothing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created with infinity. Right? Meaning, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't create time, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. Right? Time is a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we said the other day. Ki sheishes yomim oso Hashem. It doesn't say b'sheishes yomim that God created the world in 6 days. He created 6 days. Sheishes yomim oso Hashem. He created 6 days. He created time. And if time is a creation, so then time has to be finite, because that means that time has, as we said before, has to do with the physical. It has to do with the olam of Gashmi. Right? It's a creation in the world. So it has to be finite. There's no such thing as God creating something infinite. Only God is infinite, right? So therefore, So Shabbos, right, teaches us the finitude of the finiteness of time, and therefore it brings us back to the fact that the world was created in 6 days. Okay, the very important line. There's no created existence which is infinite. And so it turns out that from the way that time progresses, there comes a time when we see that it's going to come to an end. It's finished. Right? It ceases. And this is completely dependent upon the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our existence depends completely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that means that the cessation of existence will be completely dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's finish up the paragraph for today. When the Seder of the Zman comes to its completion, as yitgaleh b'chinat v'niskav Hashem levado b'yom hahu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be exalted on that levado, by Himself. I mean, levado means without anything else there. Everything will be pure elokus. V'zeh omek divrei HaGemara. Right? Shelo yitachen sheSeder Hazman yachish et mitziyuto yitbarach. Because it can't be that the Seder Hazman will contradict HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, if there is no end, so that means that if there's no end to time, so that means that there's something, right? So there's something lacking in our appreciation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Metziut. V'lachein chayav liot she'etzem Seder Hazman yichayev et haga'ah lebchinat v'niskav Hashem levado b'yom hahu. It's got to be that the Seder Azman itself, right, necessitates that we reach a point of Niskav Hashem Levadav Yamavu. Okay, and here he ends on a poetic note. Hatchalahu bebechinat Adon Olam Asher Malach b'terem kol Yitzir Nivra. Baruch Hu was Melech, Adon Olam, the master of the world, Asher Malach, b'terem, before kol Yitzir Nivra, before anything was created, a complete livado. There was nothing else, and Baruch Hu created things other than himself. The Yasiyum bebechinat. And after everything will be done, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will rule by himself. Right? And that's going to be in the 7th millennium. That's what it means. It's going to be charuv. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be all by himself, because just as every week has a beginning and an end, just as the Sheshem Bereshis started with Bereshis and ended on Shabbos, started with a Nakuda, expanded, and then return to its to the nakuda of the Hekal HaKdusha. So to the world started with a nakuda of Bereshis. It's going to end at a nakuda which is the same nakuda Bereshis after all of the 6,000 years of the world running its course and doing and being the vehicle for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's revelation in the world. Okay, that's. Okay, very heavy and very good, but Baruch Hashem, I think, hopefully we were able to understand the points. And Bezrat Hashem, we should be zocha to a Freilich and Purim, right? That we should see, right? We see the beginning of it already. V'nafochu asher yishlatu haYehudim b'soneim, hema b'soneim. We see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has turned things upside down, right? It's the month which has been turned from Evel to Yom Tov, right? To Simcha. And Yom Tov, and we should be zocha to the Yom Simcha, and just remember the Chassidish word, Lahudim Haisa Ora v'Simcha v'Sasan v'Kor. Right? Ora zu Chazal tell us, Ora zu Torah, Ora v'Simcha, Simcha ze Yom Tov. Ora v'Simcha Sasan says the Gemara zu Mila, right? Because the pasuk says Sasan Ochi. Yikar is Tefillin. So the Sfas Emes asks, so why doesn't it just say Lahudim Aisa, Shabbos, Torah, and Yom Tov, and then Mila and Tefillin? Why does it have to say no? Because the Yidden always had that. But the aura of Torah, that's what they got. The light, the inner light of Torah, right? The sasan of the Mila, right? They didn't feel that happiness, that joy, that connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that came with the mitzvah. The Yikar, the kavod of tefillin, that's what they felt, right? That's what they got. So we should be also zoicha to have that all of the mitzvahs that we do, right? Baruch Hashem, right? We all try to do as many mitzvahs as we can, right? But all the mitzvahs we do, we should be able to find that inner meaning to them. And when we learn Torah, it should be a Torah that fills us with light, and all of the other mitzvahs should fill us with the simcha that we're supposed to feel, and the connection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we should be zocha too, coming of the bias Moshiach Tzidkenu, right? And that we should have, it's the year 5,700 and, 86, right? So, and the coming, right, so we still have 214 years left for the days of Mashiach. They should be full years, right? And we should experience them and be zocha to greet the Moshiach Tzidkenu b'mei Rabbi Yameinu. Okay, cool.
Amen.
Okay, see everybody next week. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All to
Rabbi. Call to.
all to be well.